So I guess everybody's ready. We might as well get rolling, and I guess those that come in later can catch up. So I'm Tim Magnan. I'm your moderator here to open the Mississquoi School District's informational meeting. The rules of the meeting are, as usual, that we'll be using no foul language. I ask for no personal attacks. Be polite, be reasonable. Nothing wrong with being passionate, but don't be rude and inconsiderate of people. I'm gonna turn this over to Julie to tell you how this will run. If you do get out of order, I will mute you, or Julie or Robert will mute you. And to get back in, we'll have to let you back in. So with that, I'm going to mute myself and let you guys get on, and let's have a great meeting.
So I just want a few housekeeping. We're going to have a slideshow presentation that I will share and advance the slides, and the board members will present slides that they've reviewed. We want to make sure that everyone on the call mutes so that the presenters can be heard. We get a lot of background and echoing otherwise. This meeting is being recorded, so we wanted to make sure, and we will bring that up every once in a while to remind folks that this meeting is being recorded, and it will be posted on the website so that folks that were not able to attend today would be able to see it later. At the end of the presentation, we'll take some questions. People can put questions in the chat or use reactions to raise their hand. And I'm going to stop sharing so I can see. To find the chat, if you put your cursor at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a little speech bubble that says chat. And you click on that, and up will come a chat on the side. And you can type a message in the bottom that goes to everyone, or you can make it go to a particular person. But if it's a public meeting, so you would just ask your question right in there. And then at the end of the meeting, we can look through and see if there are questions we haven't answered yet, or if there are 3 questions that are about the same thing, we can group those together. To raise your hand to be called upon by moderator later, you would go to the bottom of your screen where it says reactions. There's a little smiley face with a plus sign. And when you click that, there's an option to raise hand, and there's a little yellow hand that will raise. And then to make it go away, you just do that again and click lower hand. So that's basically the mechanics of that. So I'm going to share the screen again so that people can see the presentation. We can proceed.
Thank you, Julie. To get started tonight, I'll go over the agenda. First up, we're going to discuss who the MVSD school district school directors are in the schools that we serve. We'll go over enrollment and staffing, also proposed shifts and adjustments. We'll discuss the FY22 pre-K through 12 proposed budget, the estimated education tax rate and information, the article language that you will be voting on, and voting information on where to vote and how and everything. And at the very end, we'll have a large portion for any questions. So just so you know who we all are, we'll just introduce ourselves. First up is myself. I'm Chris Shepard. I'm the board chair.
Hi, everyone. I'm Devin Batchelder, the board vice chair.
Hi, I'm Megan Conley. I'm the clerk.
I am so sorry I was muted. I'm Terry O'Shea.
I am Stephen Scott.
Peter Magnet.
Joanne, are you there?
Sorry, Joanne Johnston? Yes.
I don't know if Jen is here. And Don, you might be muted.
Don Collins, I was muted, Julie, when you went through. That's one of my better moves. Yeah. Swanton, Vermont.
Thank you, everyone. And then I'd also like to take this moment to thank Megan Conley. She has served since 2017 to now on the boards. She's going to step down and probably enjoy a little bit of free time. But I also want to just let her know she'll be receiving a plaque stating, Megan Conley, in recognition of your outstanding contribution and commitment to the Mississquoi Valley School District's Children and Community School Board member from 2017 to 2021.
Thank you. It's been an honor to serve, and hopefully I will be back in the future.
Oh, we hope so. Now I'll pass it on to Steve.
Mississquoi Valley School District schools include Franklin Central, which is grades pre-kindergarten to 6, Highgate Elementary, which is grade pre-K to 6, Swanton Elementary, which is grade pre-K to 6, and of course MVU Middle and High School, grade 7 to 12. This is enrollment data, just so everybody knows, from October 1st of 2020. Although student enrollment fluctuates from year to year, October 1st is like a snapshot or a point in time that is sent to the state each year, and it forms a basis for our average daily membership. And then equalized pupils. Overall, enrollment has been declining only slightly. We do expect home study students to hopefully return at the end of the pandemic. This here is a breakdown of our staffing that are reflected in the budget. We continuously examine our enrollment. We do continuously examine our enrollment, and staffing needs to provide efficient and effective programs for our students. Here we have some proposed shifts and adjustments. Both union support and professional staff are modestly increased in accordance with negotiated agreements. Health insurance premium increase of approximately 10% for all staff. Continued investments in building grounds, repair, and maintenance. Highgate is reducing 1 classroom teacher and 1 paraeducator due to reduced enrollment. Franklin Central will add a 0.4 FTE to have a full-time school nurse. 0.2 and 0.2 music and 0.2 art have been added to increase Franklin's unified arts offerings. Highgate and MVU will be sharing a current tech integration teacher position. MVU is repurposing 2 positions and utilizing federal grant funding to have a middle school reading intervention teacher and a teacher of personalized learning. To note, this year, the board used COVID relief funds to purchase air purifiers and clean out our air handlers. Off to Peter.
All right, budget article. Probably the reason most of you are here, you want to see this number. So Article 2, shall the voters of Mississquoi Valley School District approve the school directors to expend $38,653,476, which is the amount the school directors have determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. This is estimated that the proposed budget, if approved, will result in education spending of $15,258 per equalized pupil. This projected spending per equalized pupil is 2.92% lower. I repeat, as you see that is underlined and in uppercase letters, lower than the spending for the current year. So the next slide is the FY22 expenditure budget. So this is a summary of the proposed expenditure budget for FY22. It represents an increase in spending of 1.97%. That increase, 87% is due to benefit increases, particularly healthcare premium costs. If you would like more information, the FY22 budget and summary documents are available on our website at mvsdschools.org.
Peter, I just wanted to mention too that Robert put the link to that document in the chat as well.
Awesome. All right, if we go on to our expense budget breakout classifications. So you can see the classifications there. I'll go through them. Salary and benefits, purchase services, property services, repair and maintenance, transportation, tuition, communication, insurance and travel, supplies and equipment, and dues, fees, and debt. So as you can see, the majority of the budget, 74%, is made up by the salary and benefit line items. And you can see the others categories that I've already mentioned, and the next highest ones in there, which are obviously considerably less, are purchase services, transportation, and supplies and equipment. And then the expense budget breakout, you can see here a breakdown between special education and general education expenses, with general education being 79% and special ed is 21% of that expenditure budget.
So that brings us to our FY22 proposed budget and tax rate. So first line, we have the FY22 proposed expense budget, which Peter read, was $38,653,476. We remove our estimated revenues, which is $10,824,080, which will give us a remaining amount, which is our actual education spending, which is $27,829,396. We have estimated equalized pupil count for FY22 of 1,823.97 students. This gives us an educational spending per equalized pupil of $15,258. Our FY22 estimated equalized homestead tax rate is 1.3401. The FY22 estimated equalized tax rate is 8.9 cents lower than FY22. Spending comparison to others, MVSD FY22 proposed is 15,258. Our FY21 actual was 15,717. The state average for FY22 is 17,612, and FY21 was 16,975. The FY22 MVSD proposed is $2,354 less than the estimated FY22 state average. Our estimated homestead equalized property tax with CLA adjustment. I'll just go town by town. Franklin's is while all three towns is a 1.3401. Franklin's CLA, or common level of appraisal, is 96.1%, giving them an estimated adjusted tax rate of 1.3945, which the change from FY 2021 is a 8 cents reduction. For Highgate, their CLA is 97.41, giving them an estimated adjusted tax rate of 1.3758, giving them a reduction of 1.32 cents. Swanton's CLA 98.39, giving them an estimated adjusted tax rate of 1.3621, and their reduction is 5.6 cents.
So, thank you, Chris. So this is Terry O'Shea, and there are
I'm
other
not quite-
articles.
I'm not quite
I'm
done yet.
sorry. I'm sorry, Chris. Jumping up.
CLAs and income sensitivity, the decrease in the common level appraisal, or the CLA, in all of our belonging town, negative, wow, try that again. The decrease in the CLA in all of our belonging towns negatively impacts tax rates. The school districts have no control over CLAs. The CLAs are driven by property values and the sales statewide and within the community. Approximately 75% of taxpayers in Franklin County receive some level of income sensitivity on their tax bill, therefore reducing their tax burden. The estimated tax rate impact on homestead values of 200,000 for Franklin. FY21 tax was 2,950. The FY22 estimated tax is 2,789 for a decrease of $161. Highgate's FY21 tax was $2,778. Their estimated FY22 is $2,751 for an estimated decrease of $27. Swanton's FY21 tax was $2,836. FY22 estimated is $2,724, and their decrease is $112 estimated. Go ahead, Terry. Thank you.
Okay, I guess I really wanted to get to those other articles. Sorry about that, Chris. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay, so some of the other articles on the ballots are Article 1, to elect from the legal voters of the said district the following officers. For moderator, Timothy Magnet. For clerk, Nola Gilbert. For treasurer, Georgette Roddy. And for school director from Franklin, Devin Batchelder. For school director from Highgate, Jennifer Chevalier. And for school director from Swanton, Tobias McGuire. So that's Article 1. Article 3 then will be the question, shall the voters of the Mississquoi Valley School District authorize the board of directors of the said school district to borrow money to pay the current expenditures in anticipation of taxes and to sign notes for that purpose? So this allows us to operate before we receive taxing revenue, the tax revenue. And then one more, Article 4, shall the voters of the Mississquoi Valley School District authorize the Board of Directors to provide notice of availability of the annual report by posting the availability on the school district websites and social media in the designated newspaper, and by providing physical copies at the schools, town offices, and superintendent's office, and by making the report available by mailing upon request, not less than 10 days prior to the district's annual meeting. And this article will replace the district sending postcards. And the cost of postcards is $3,000 a year, and we receive many back in the mail. So we believe the funds are better spent on printing our annual report. So the last piece here in this part is polling places and times on town meeting day, Tuesday, March 2nd. And that is Franklin at Franklin Town Hall, Main Street, Franklin, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. In Highgate, it's at the Highgate Sports Arena, 243 Gore Road, Highgate Center, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And in Swanton, at the Swanton Village Municipal Complex, 1st and Elm Streets, Swanton, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And also you can get your mail-in ballots and mail in a ballot. Okay, and so I'm going to turn it back to our board chair, to Chris.
Thank you, Terry. And thank you, everyone. This was our presentation. We're going to open it up for questions and comments pertaining to this presentation, and any questions for our budget that we proposed as well.
Do we have any in the chat box?
No.
I don't see any.
Not at this time. We have, again, for people's information, we have our annual report, the link to our annual report, the proposed budget and tax information, links for some of the videos that we made for each of our schools and the central office shared services. So all those links are in the chat, and all that information can be found on our school district website.
I see a hand up on Ryan Maskell. Ryan, do you have a question?
I do. This is Ryan Maskell. I was just curious on the plant operations line, the decrease of 25,000. I was just curious what that was due to for Highgate.
Laura, I'm going to give that to you. Is that, just for clarification, Ryan, was that in the overview on the Highgate presentation video?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear, Laura.
Okay. So we've developed a few different things this year, but a facility task force has been formed with all the facility directors and Julie, myself, and 3 different board members, 1 from each town. We've been doing a lot of work in budgeting and planning, right sizing lines since the merger. So I would say that there's been several different shifts because of that as well. Really not a reduction in any of our schools. I will point out on we have a general fund line item line under plant operation and maintenance, which is for more your maintenance items, more proactive kind of smaller work that maintains our buildings. And then we now have another line under a different fund. I don't know if you have a book, or I can point it out in the copy of the budget, but we also now have a fund 3007, which is a construction and renovation line in our budget. That's been increased $100,000. So some of those funds were shifted there. It went from 235,000 for all the schools to 335,000. And that's to address a lot of the larger scale issues that some of our buildings are facing, or at least help us with that. So some of that is a shift. There really has not been a reduction in any of our schools.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? I'm not seeing any hands. Paula, you got your hand up in your video.
Yes, I do. I apologize. I joined the meeting late, and I don't know if this had been discussed in the presentation, but the difference between the unreserved fund balance from FY21 to FY22 is a difference of 1.4 million. It went from 888,177 to 2,311,823. I'm just curious about why that is so large.
Laura, I think that one's for you.
Sure. So a few different reasons. A majority of that, Paulette, is due to the fact that schools were basically closed in March. And so there was about a quarter of our year where really spending had ceased. The only spending that was happening was on absolutely, non-discretionary items, things that were absolutely necessary to clean our schools and get them ready for kids to return. And a lot of those expenses have now been reimbursed with federal dollars. So that allowed us to carry forward a lot of those funds. Even, we were able to meet the governor's order to continue to pay all of our staff, support staff and salaried staff, and maintain our contractual obligations. But again, those were expenses that we had planned on paying from the general fund, but were then reimbursed with coronavirus relief funds.
Were there any projects that were slated to be done that were not completed because of COVID? Did that impact anything?
There were some facility projects, and due to timing, so when all of this happened, yes, that were delayed. We're addressing some of those now with the current year's carryover. And then there were a lot of HVAC projects. HVAC work was one of the things that was slated for some of our schools, and that was actually funded. We had some work that was funded through, again, the CRF HVAC air quality grant, the new federal funds there. So, but yes, there were some deferred projects.
So when the 2023 budget comes around, with us presumably not seeing a $2.3 million fund balance carryover, it will greatly impact what we see for our tax rates in a year from now for the budget. It would seem that way because it wouldn't seem as though you'd have a $2.3 million unreserved fund balance to help offset expenses.
Chris, is it okay if I keep speaking to that? I just don't want to talk out of turn. Must be.
Yes, go ahead.
Chris said, yeah.
So the board did discuss that, has discussed that recently when we were kind of estimating the tax rate. There was a lot of talk about potential should any of this fund balance be potentially requested to be held back for just what you're talking about, a cliff that might happen next year. So the board did decide after reviewing the carryover that we're estimating for the current year that was not necessary at this time. It's something we'll keep an eye on, but again, because of all the federal funding that we're getting from the stimulus packages, ESSER funds, CRF funds, and air quality funding, we are actually projecting a sizable carryover again this year. Again, not knowing, with all the uncertainty that COVID brings, we really have focused on only non-discretionary spending, excuse me. I think we've made sure, and I think Julie can obviously explain that more, that we've made sure that students have everything that they need, staff have what they need for remote learning and in-person, but we've really scrutinized every single expenses we've had to make that were extra expenses have been reimbursed with federal dollars for the most part. So that's allowed us to be in a pretty good position this year. Totally hear what you're saying, though. It's something we need to keep an eye on, that we don't have a cliff coming up, in future years.
Right. Thank you.
Julie, could you do us a favor and tell everybody how to raise your hand on reactions again, please? Because we had some viewers come in after you gave those instructions.
Absolutely. So at the bottom of your screen, if you move your cursor down there, there's a little sign that's a smiley face with a plus, and it says reactions. If you click on that, there's an option to raise your hand. And you can see I have a little raised yellow hand there. And then when I'm finished, I can put it down just by clicking again and click on lower hand. And it's a little easier because if I'm just here waving and I'm muted, there's so many people here, the moderator might not see me. But if I click raise hand, a little message comes up.
Yeah, and I apologize if I don't get to your questions right off because I'm having to switch screens here because I've got half on one screen, half on another, and I keep going back and forth and checking to answer your questions. But at the moment, I haven't seen any hands. And there's also, you can put questions in the chat box too. And I don't know, Julie, have you checked that? If we had any questions yet?
We have not. So again, at the bottom of your screen, you can put your cursor and you'll see a little speech bubble that says chat. And if you click on that on the side of your screen, will come up a chat box. And at the bottom, you'll see a blinking cursor and you can type a message there, hit return or enter, and your question will come up for us to see.
I'm seeing no questions here. Do you have anything else you want to go over, Chris or Julie?
I don't have anything. I'm hoping that there's not many questions because we did a good job in the presentation.
I see Yvonne has his hand up. Maybe that was from before.
I'm having troubles going back and forth here. Where was Yvonne? I've lost him. If Yvonne's got his hand up, please answer. I'm not seeing Yvonne on mine.
Go ahead, Yvonne. I see you.
Okay, thank you. Yvonne here from the town of Franklin. Just a quick question. I know it's been an oddball year and whatnot, and I try to keep track a little bit of the ag department. Is there anyone that can share a little bit of information as to what's going on over there? If I recall correctly, last year, I believe that there was a sum of something like $60,000, I believe, for the ag department. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And I was just wondering if that money was spent on the ag department or if there's a remaining, or where we at with the ag department.
Tim, I think Laura can answer the specifics of how revenue is applied, and I can maybe give a little update on the ag department afterwards.
Go ahead, Laura.
I'm wondering, Yvonne, if you're talking about that there is a department budget specifically for the ag department. It is now a, forgive me, I forget the term. It's been kind of renamed, and we've centralized and mainstreamed the spending for the ag department. Is the animal science, Julie? I'm forgetting the other departments. But there is a specific portion of the budget. It's a department budget like many others, like science and math and English, that is specifically those teachers and the people involved with that program, along with Jay Hartman, develop a budget that's specific for that program. There is also some what we call an ag program tuition grant that we receive. It's about $122,000 this year that we will receive specific for that.
And it's spent as general revenue. It's not targeted in any way, but we do fund the ag department, animal science pretty well. We continue, Jay Hartman actually, and it would be great to ask Jay some specifics, but he has taken over the department leadership this year. And I know his goal is to really improve the site, clean things up. There was some gravel work that was done for drainage. There are some, the facility task team has not looked at it yet, but I know there are some proposals about some improvements that could be made to the ag building, to the outside of the building. Of course, they always want a bigger sugar shack and things like that, but I don't know, that's not in the cards in the short term. But we do still continue to struggle to hire a particular teacher for the welding aspect of the program. So we are looking at how best to meet that need, because it's tough. It seems to be tough to find somebody who stays there and can do that work and have a teaching license. So we may look at how we can get those services to kids a little differently. But it's a real star for MVU, and we want to make sure that we continue to support it well.
I appreciate the info. Thank you.
Ryan Maskell, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I was just trying to figure out how to word my question. I guess I'm going to just give it a shot. So under the principal's office, is there a possibility or chance that the number of personnel in the administration office across the district changing in numbers?
I would say that's your question, Julie.
Yes, I mean, the budget was formed before. You probably know that Chris Palmer has tendered his resignation. He's moving out of state at the end of the school year. We are planning on replacing that position with a social emotional or behavioral coach So the money will shift to a different line in actuality. But it's still important that somebody is in that position to lead all of the work that's happening and the improvements that have happened around the culture and behavioral systems at elementary.
Okay. I just didn't want to get too particular on names, so I just let you do that. But thank you.
No, I'm the one who did it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Tim, there is a question in the chat. I just thought maybe you would want to read it. Or I'm happy to.
Yeah, or Julie was going to read the questions in the chat.
Absolutely. Someone's wondering if the reports show individual department budgets. And department budgets aren't broken out in the chart of accounts the way that they used to be. Is that correct, Laura? The way the state has us account for things now?
Right. We don't get down to that level of tracking in the financial management system, but we request specific budgets for those departments that are then reviewed by the administration at MVU. And then those are included in different pieces, different line items as appropriate in the budget that you see. A majority of those are in instructional programs on, the first portion under Fund 1001 the school budget under instructional programs. A lot of them are under the 600, 700, and 800 lines. That's your supplies and equipment lines for instruction. Others such as library, technology, interscholastics, athletics, you'll notice those in different pieces of the budget as well. But it's mostly the supplies, equipment lines that we are requesting budgets for, and then they're reviewed. So we collect that information in Google Sheets. It's reviewed and shared, and then we input it into the budget as appropriate based on the chart of accounts.
Thank you, Laura and Julie. Betsy Funier's got her hand raised, and so does Paul Martin. Betsy was first. Betsy, we'll take your question. Betsy, can you hear me? You had a question?
You're muted, Betsy.
Can she hear us now? Betsy, can you hear us? We'll take Paul Martin's question. We'll get back to you, Betsy, when we get the technical difficulties squared away. Paul?
Hello, everyone. Isn't Zoom fun? My question in the chat, that was my question in the chat regarding the ag budget. I'm just curious. It sounds like there isn't a breakdown from department over department. I was just curious to see what that ag budget looked like every year. And I guess my second question would be, I think it was, I'm not sure who mentioned it. I think it was Julie that mentioned that there was maybe an idea for the welding, the welding program and how that might proceed. I know you're having difficulties finding somebody who can stay and, who can hold the license, like you mentioned. I'm just curious if you can comment yet on what those ideas might be.
Paul, it's pretty preliminary now, but we have to look at the program and figure out how best to, give kids those skills and maybe redesign a class or two. But we have the funds there for another teacher. So we'd like to figure out how best to give those. It might not be the same kind of class. It might be some units in a class. I am not the person to ask the specifics on that. I would ask you to reach out to Jay Hartman, but it's very early days. But we will of course look for a position in a hiring season, probably right when we get back from school break. But we may have to admit to ourselves that we're not going to find a licensed teacher that can do welding. We may have to do something a little differently.
Thank you. I hope that something similar to what is going on there now in the program that's been offered for years stays in place as best as it possibly can, because that is an exceptional program. So I totally see and understand the challenges. I wish you the best in finding somebody who can take Mr. Macy's shoes. So, but I think that's a great program. And I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
Julie, I can speak to the budget if you'd like for that program. So the department budget for that program, which does not include staffing, benefits, or the facility related items that would be included under those line items in the budget under instruction and facilities, is about $54,000 projected for this year. You know, that's not obviously set in stone, it's an estimate, but that is what the budget is included in this draft.
Thank you, Laura. Betsy, did you get your mic straightened out? Can you ask your question, please? If you can't, we can't hear you, Betsy. If you can try the chat box, please, and ask your question in there. If you could, please. We're not hearing you.
You hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you now. Yes, Betsy, go ahead, please.
Loud and clear. Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much. Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button, and I'm watching a basketball game and listening to this meeting at the same time. So first off, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the whole school community, all the work they've done through this pandemic. It's been phenomenal. I think you've done an excellent job with the teaching staff, the administration, the business office, everybody. Hands down, I just appreciate all the work that you put into, you know, creating a safe atmosphere for our students and the learning experience that they're receiving. I know it's not easy, and I applaud you all for all the work that you're doing. So I don't really have a question. I just kind of have just wondering, I guess maybe kind of a question. So I appreciate the work that the board did on the budget. And my question is, decreasing the budget is kind of I feel maybe a risky thing. Why did you not level fund instead?
Chris, do you want to try that one, or do you want one of your other board members?
I can take that one. And if I'm misspoken, feel free to jump in, Laura, to help me out. But we actually didn't decrease the budget. The budget increased, but because of carryover and the adjustments from CLA and all that stuff, it's created a small decrease in everyone's taxes. So the budget actually, the actual total budget went up, but we had carryover and revenue changes and all the CLA changes and everything like that, and helped us, and we were able to have a small decrease in the actual equalized spending per pupil.
Thank
So
you, Chris.
it's just our tax rates were in the decrease, not the actual budget.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Just, you did a good job, Chris. I don't mean to step on your toes. It's because what our tax rate is based on is that net ed spending amount that was in an earlier slide. So that's the expenditure budget, which did go up almost $800,000. It is a minimal amount. We were able to do a lot of shifting and absorbing of any of the increases, but it did increase about $800,000, 740, I think, actually. But then, as Chris said, we had an increase in anticipated revenue. Anticipated grant funding is up, along with the carryover and a few other resources. So that actually makes our net ed spending go down. And that's the part that your tax rate is calculated on, not the expenditure budget like it used to be.
Thank you, Laura. I see
Thank
two
you.
hands up. Oh, go ahead, Betsy. You're still on the floor.
No, I just said thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Betsy. I see two hands up. I see Paulette and Yvonne. I saw Paulette's first. Paulette, what's your question?
My question has to do with a chart that's in the annual report on page 8. That is a chart that Julie comments on.
Did you get the bad chart, Paulette?
I apparently I did, because it's got some numbers with no headings, and I thought, okay, what is this trying to tell us?
We've
Yeah.
got new ones printed. The print,
Yeah.
we worked with
Excuse
a
me.
new printer, and Laura was so fast getting them out. We did look at the proof first, but when the proof was fine, but when it printed, I went and looked at them and they were missing all the numbers. So they did fix that. So we do have others. If you go on our website, you can see the annual report and all the numbers are there, or you can get a new copy at the town clerk.
So they got new copies of the whole book or just that page?
The whole book.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
We're very sorry that happened.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, I got hands going up all over the place here. I saw Parat. Chris, I'll get to you after Parat. Yvonne, please.
Thank you, Tim. Yvonne here from the town of Franklin. I guess I'm glad to hear that I think his name was Paul that was mentioning about the welding department and working on that. I just want to say again on how important that department is. I realize it's not called the Ag department anymore, but the welding and other trades are very important, I feel, for this area, this community. These trades, I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of them. And I guess what's difficult for me is not seeing these line items showing how much money is going where and what they represent and what department is going to get these monies, so we can see what's being done to attract the high school kids in these trades. I feel that these trades are very important, and I want to make sure that we don't lose track of that. And I guess that's it for me tonight. I now want to thank the board, all board members, for doing what they've been doing. It's been a difficult year for us all. And thank you to all the board members. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Parat.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell Paulette that Phil delivered some new books today, so they're there now at the town clerk's office. And apparently, Lisa did not know why he delivered them, and so I sent her an email and explained to her that page 8 is not it needs to be replaced. So anyway, the books are there now, Paulette. If if you want to stop in and get a replacement copy.
Thank you, Parat. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Chris?
I was just raising my hand because there's looks like 2 or 3 questions in the chat now.
Yes. I see. I want to go back. Let's see. The last one. It's my understanding there's no adult education offered in the district. Is the board open to discussion about using school facilities for adult education? We did talk about that a few years ago, Tim, if you don't mind me answering that.
I do not mind you answering that. Julie, go ahead.
I'm so bossy. I just jump right in. It's what I do.
Well, it might be the nature of your job.
That's not what my mother would say. But we do not have adult education right now. Adult education is a part of our regional tech center. So the Northwest Tech Center provides a very large adult education program. And yet this MVU before the merger did talk about, how we would be open to hosting a site or doing something, because I know transportation can be an issue. So those conversations do happen. This isn't right now. We don't have any extra anything in our schools that we can help, but I do think it would be nice. I'm a big supporter of whether it is a night welding class, which frankly would not be a bad idea for adult education, or some other kind of class that we could host that made sense. I think that would be something the school and the board would be interested in. Toby asked about retention compared to neighboring schools and how our salaries for administrators and staff compare. While we're not negotiating right now, we'll be negotiating again next year. We do not have we've made improvements, but it is one of the things that worries us the most, We have a high turnover rate of new teachers. It affects our instructional program. New teachers take a few years to get the professional learning they need to get better, to become proficient teachers. It is a reality that in our community, we do not pay as well as some neighboring districts, or certainly those in Chittenden County, and that does affect our retention. And that is something the board is aware of, and something that we want to work on continuously. It's important for our achievement to have high quality teachers that stay for a long time. I didn't even ask this time, Tim.
That's fine. We're rolling with it, Julie. They're your questions anyways to answer.
Paul, I don't know if that was a question, but you were making the comment about how important the welding program and trades are in our community, which is so true. And Laura put in the department name is Agriculture, Food, and Natural Resources. And that's what I have in the chat.
I'm not seeing any hands raised. Anybody have any questions? Now it's time to ask. Chris, Julie, do you have anything to add?
I would just have folks go to our MVSDschools.org website. There's videos about what's happening in all of our schools. We tried in these COVID times to put out as much as we can. They are long. We wanted them to be 5 minutes. They turned in to be 25 to half an hour. You know, principals like to talk about their schools, can't help it. But we hope that you watch some of those and get the budget information that helps you. And please come out on town meeting day.
Chris, anything you want to add to that?
Really took the words right out of my mouth. That was perfect.
Any of the other board members? Oh, we've got something in chat box.
Deb Boucher, thank you for all your hard work. You're appreciated. Oh, it was Dennis. Thank you, Dennis.
We want to close the meeting. Oh, we got something else here. Please remember to vote on Tuesday, March 2nd. Yes, I'd agree with that. As a moderator, I'm supposed to stay neutral, but I do, being a past board member myself, I'd like to thank all the board members for all the time and hard work they put in, because I know it's not an easy job. And during this COVID time, my heart's been out to you guys. I can't imagine trying to meet the way you guys have been meeting. And personally, I appreciate all the hard work you do too. So thank you guys. Well, I've got the chance. Do we want to adjourn the meeting? I guess I'm going to consider the meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.